Hey, how's it going? George Anderson here, talking today about alcohol. I have to confess, this is not an easy video for me to put together. It's actually something that I've, put off doing for the last few years because of an inner belief that I have held on to that has been sort of holding me back from talking more openly and more honestly and candidly about this subject. I stopped drinking about 5.5 years ago, just completely stopped overnight. And I'd never say that I gave it up because it was almost like I just went from being somebody who drank, the next day I was somebody who didn't drink. And I was midway through a holiday, family holiday. It wasn't a big boozy affair, but I'd been out with my wife one evening about 3 or 4 days into this 7 or 8 day break. And had just a few drinks, just a regular, normal night. No day had I been completely alcohol free, but neither had I been getting drunk at all during that break. And I remember waking up the next morning after having had a wonderful night and a few mojitos, feeling with this intense feeling of clarity in my mind that I was never going to drink alcohol again in my life. And it was this moment where I just knew that that's what it was going to be. And it wasn't a case of waiting till Monday. I was on this family holiday after all. I'll just continue enjoying myself and then I'll stop on Monday. It was like, well, this is who I am now. I stop here and now. And that was it. So it was, for me, it was a very easy transition to make. There was no transition. It was a binary thing, drinker to non-drinker. And it was a bit of a kind of a weird time, and I wrote a few words about that, and I got a little bit of momentum and spoke to a few people about their experiences with alcohol as well around there. But then I sort of haven't really, it's not something I speak that often about. And I think partly the reason for holding back about it has been that I've always had this reluctance to come across as somebody who's preachy. I hope I don't come across as preachy. But also somebody who people can't identify with, saying, "Oh, well, that's George. You know, he's the fitness guy. He runs ultramarathons. He doesn't even drink. Like he's some kind of angelic, hypothetical figure, mythical figure. We could never get to that point. I've never wanted to get to that. That's just kind of my illusion of what I think people might have said or thought about me. If I made this big thing about the fact that I didn't drink, and I've got to." Say my life and my well-being and healthy habits aren't anything like perfect. I'm pretty good and I look after myself. But alcohol, it was never a health reason for choosing not to drink that. I'd been a personal trainer for 10 plus years before I decided that I was going to stop drinking. And my habits usually revolved around, I wouldn't normally drink during the week, but Friday night, Saturday night, I'd have a few beers. I had children at that point, sort of in the last few years of my drinking career, if you will. And so I'd have a few beers and some wine or some gin and tonics in the house. And I'd get to a point where I was sort of, pleasantly inebriated. And then the next morning I was just getting about my business and it wasn't really affecting me practically with the things that I was able to do. So I didn't have a problem. And this is what I was telling myself, I don't have a problem. But one of the things I noticed was, especially if I went out, which I did occasionally still go out and have more to drink than was good for me, and don't need to be a scientist to know that, or a health expert to know how much is good for you and how much definitely isn't good for you. So I'd go out and I'd have a skinful, and it was this feeling of what at the time I regarded as a blend of paranoia and guilt and shame for maybe the next 4, 5, even up to 6 days. So I'd go out on the Friday and have it large. And then maybe the Thursday, the following week, I was starting to feel back to myself again. And now I look back at that time and I realize that wasn't paranoia, it wasn't guilt, it wasn't shame, it was just wrapped up, it was anxiety. And it was this kind of low level feeling of just not feeling myself, feeling more pessimistic, just not really enjoying what I was doing for that period after having drunk. So that wasn't a massive contributing factor in my decision to stop. But as I look back on it, I realized that I was doing this to myself on a regular basis. And even that low level, Friday night, Saturday night, a few drinks, it was definitely having an impact on how I felt. And I was no stranger to giving up alcohol for a month at a time. When I was at university, I was at Loughborough. At university, I was hanging out with a lot of other athletes. I was a 400 meter runner back then. And generally speaking, many of us would just not drink at all during January because we had the indoor season at the end of the month, and also we had exams coming up, a lot of us did. So I just didn't used to drink through January for pretty much sort of 4 or 5 years there. But this was very different when I decided that I was going to stop, because it wasn't like I was stopping with a finite end point and then I was going to start again. But one thing, and the reason I've kind of decided I wanted to talk a little bit more about it now, is that I've had lots of conversations with people as a coach, and also in my role as a kind of an online community curator. I get to see a lot of conversations that revolve around alcohol and the challenges that a lot of people have with it. And on the face of it, at the surface level, it's no problem. We have this vision of alcoholics being people lying homeless on a bench, drinking vodka out of a bottle wrapped in a brown paper bag. And that when we don't identify with somebody like that, then we haven't got a problem. But when I look back at what I was doing, I realized that I did have a problem, because it wasn't allowing me to live my life the way that I wanted to live. It was controlling me. And one of the other things I realized when I stopped was that then when I went out in social situations, I didn't have this second track running through my mind of, when am I going to get my next drink from? How much have I had to drink already? How much have they had compared to me? Am I slurring my words yet? Am I standing straight? Because I was a terrible drunk. I'd get drunk after maybe 2 or 3 pints. And then I wouldn't get any more drunk after that. I'd feel okay, but I'd just be physically incapable of holding conversations after just a few drinks. Which I'm sure amused people around me, which I guess there's the silver lining. So I guess what I wanted to do is to encourage people to examine their own stories around alcohol, away from the bravado, away from the, oh, is it 1 o'clock yet, away from the fun aspect of it that we often use to convince ourselves that what we're doing is absolutely harmless, and it's a good thing because it's allowing us to connect with people, and it's giving us the confidence to go out and interact in social situations and to have fun, and fun's good, and we've worked really hard, and therefore we need to have some downtime, some me time, to let our hair down and just forget about it for a while and just enjoy ourselves. We tell ourselves that, and a lot of it is true, but the fact is it comes back to a drug that we're giving ourselves in larger amounts than we're able to handle a lot of the time. And perhaps it's making us do stuff or say stuff, but more importantly, it's making us feel stuff that is not conducive to the way a lot of us want to really experience ourselves and experience life. And when you start examining what those deeper stories are, away from the superficial stories, and I know these stories go on. I know that if you're watching this video now, then you may well be nodding along and thinking, actually there is some deeper, maybe some darker stuff going on in there as well. Then just examine those stories. And it's not to say that you need to take my lead and stop drinking alcohol completely. Very few people will do that, and that's fine. You don't have to. But for me, it was a case of examining my relationship with alcohol, how much it was working for me, helping me, and how much it was hindering me in living the life that I wanted to live. So examine your stories, examine the reasons, the motivations for drinking, and in the way that you drink, the habits that you have around alcohol, especially coming into the Christmas season, which will be upon us in no time at all, and those increased opportunities for drinking large quantities of alcohol, and what it really means. So, are you controlling it, or is it controlling you? And it's something that I've been thinking about putting a video together and talking about it a little bit more openly. And maybe I'm opening myself up to flack, maybe I'm opening myself up to ridicule, maybe I'm opening myself up for judgment, and people telling me that I should just mind my own business and people haven't got a problem with alcohol at all. And you know what? I'm ready to take that. I'm ready for whatever, because I just felt like I needed to say my piece with no judgment, with no preachiness, no telling people what they should be doing, but just as an observation, certainly my own personal experiences and what I've seen with my coaching clients and my online programs and other conversations that I've been witness to over the last few years as well. Hope that's been of some help and service to you. If it has, then please, I would love to hear from you. If you've got your own thoughts as well, then do please leave a comment, and I'll be back again with you very soon. Bye for now.